Late 1700s, prior to the Industrial Revolution, most people worked in fields, which they didn't own. Most people who owned land were aristocrats who lived refined lives in well-built homes. The landowners and land workers all depended on each other. During this time, manufacturing was often done in people's homes, where people used hand tools or basic machines. In addition, most people resided in small rural communities where their daily existences revolved around farming. However, this system, which seemed natural at that time, was changed years later by what was known as the Industrial Revolution.
As the birthplace of many modern advancements such as banking, clothes manufacturing, and house appliances, Europe also gave birth to the Industrial Revolution, one of the most important, if not most influential revolutions in history. In the late 18th century, the Industrial Revolution was a time of urbanization of rural communities in Europe that soon made its way to other countries. Why was Europe, specifically Britain, the perfect place for this movement to start? A number of factors contributed to Britain's role in the Industrial Revolution. Britain had an abundant amount of coal and iron ore, which proved essential for industrialization. It was also a politically stable society, as well as the world's largest leading colonial power, which meant its colonies could serve as a source of raw materials, as well as a marketplace for manufactured goods. In addition, the demand for British goods influenced the need for new industrialized manufacturing techniques. In comparison to Britain, other nearby countries weren't doing too shabby. Although all of the countries were proficient at many things, for example China, flourishing with inventions including paper, compasses, landmines, and even the coffin, the demand for their goods weren't as high as Britain's. The want for British goods activated the want for faster and efficient manufacturing methods. One of the inventions that was changed for this purpose was the spinning jenny. The spinning jenny was one of the innovations made to facilitate the handling of large quantities of cotton. This new invention decreased the need for factory workers and increased efficiency when handling cotton in the textile industry.
Reaction, reaction, reaction. After the revolution was born, some things were changed drastically. For example, money. A lot of the effects of the Industrial Revolution had to do with the economy. You see, with the new manufacturing methods, it was cheaper to produce quality goods. Because it was cheaper to make, it was also cheaper for consumers to buy. The same trend occurred with transportation. Prior to the revolution, transportation was very expensive. At that time, transportation costed nearly 10 pounds, which is equivalent to $15 today. During the revolution, transportation became more affordable due to improved transportation methods like waterways, roads, and railroads. But, like everything, there are two sides to this story. These advancements definitely did not only come with positive effects. The working conditions in these factories were not the best. In fact, these conditions led to illness and death. Also, the Industrial Revolution attracted lots of immigrants. This caused overpopulation at the time, leaving people in slum areas. Also, with transportation methods, pollution became a big problem. At the time, people didn't always dispose of their waste properly, causing water and land pollution. One of the biggest, saddest, and baddest negative effects of the Industrial Revolution was unemployment. If you put two and two together, if machines took some of the workers' jobs, where did those workers go? Some of them stayed employed, but others stayed unemployed and unable to feed their families.
Life for the poor and working classes continued to be filled with challenges. Wages for those who were labored in factories were low. To be able to earn enough money to maintain their households, many people had to go to extremes. Due to the implementation of machines, there was little job security and many workers were laid off. A group of people, called the Luddites, took action and destroyed factory machines because they lost their jobs. This sparked the ideas of riots. And other pre-industrial artisans who viewed the machines as a destruction to their careers. In response to the Industrial Revolution, they wrote anonymous letters to factory owners warning them to close down or else there will be consequences. They raided factories at night and destroyed the new textile machines that took away their jobs. The Luddites carried out the raids with such secrecy, precision, discipline, and swiftness that they initially caught factory owners, the police, and government officials by surprise. Actually, in one of the factories, the Luddites quietly broke 10 new textile machines and slipped out into the night. And guess what? The owner was there, plus his troops guarding 10 yards away. But they didn't care, because all they wanted was revenge. Consequently, in 1812, Parliament passed a law aimed specifically at the Luddites, threatening the death penalty to anyone who smashed industrial machines. Eventually, the riot died out. A small movement of writers responded to the negative effects of the Industrial Revolution by designing and trying to implement new ideal or utopian communities. They dreamed of communities focused on creating more dignified working conditions and better treatment of women and children. This then sparked ideas of capitalism, socialism, utilitarianism, and communism. To fight for their rights, Industrial Revolution workers formed groups called unions. Unions were saw as a threat, and in 1799 and 1800, due to their riot methods. The government decided to pass Combination Acts, which prohibited trade unions and collective bargaining by British workers.
Due to the low wages, many families sent their children as young as 6 years old to work in factories and mills. In the early 1860s, an estimated one-fifth of the workers in Britain's textile industry were younger than 15. The British Parliament set up a commission in 1832 to investigate child labor in factories. As a result, the government passed the Factory Act of 1832 to regulate excessive child labor. The act set limits on how many hours a day a child could work. The act stated that children 8 and younger could not work in factories, and that employers had to have an average certificate for the child worker. Children between 19 to 13 years could not work more than 9 hours a day, and children between 13 to 18 years could work no more than 12 hours a day. The act prohibited children working during evening hours. This was the first ever government regulation of the industrial workplace. In response to this, factory owners resisted the law because they said it would slow down production, increase the cost of their products, and make them less competitive. And some parents of child workers argued that their families would have less money to survive as a result of the loss of the income. It wasn't until the 19th century that these regulations were enforced more strictly. The 1880 Education Act made school mandatory for children up to age 10. The 1918 Education Act made school mandatory for children up to age 14. And in 1944, some 150 years after the start of the Industrial Revolution, the government funded and mandated secondary education for all citizens through the age 18. Although all these bad things occurred because of the revolution, this revolution made America what it is today. From cars, iPhones, clothes, television, and social media, the Industrial Revolution proved to be a big factor in today's world, and if not, the most influential revolution in history.